Hey everyone, it's gonna be more like a sort of breakdown about this architectural movie I posted a few weeks ago. The movie is about a project of ours, a mountain shelter, and since we want to develop this project, we thought about making sort of presentation, and we thought about a movie. Anyways, if you wish to have more information about this project, there is a website, the mountainrefuge.com, and there you will find what's that about. So let's start from the first scene. Okay, as you can see, it's quite simple. It's a top view of the interior, moving in a straight line towards the window, and you can see from the left view that the camera is moving in a linear movement, and linear movements are what I will be using for the whole movie because they are simple to read, they fit for architectural shores, and they're good. So one thing we notice here is that the sun is going to disappear till the end. So of course I have been animating the sun power from frame 40 to frame 100, and starts going down because it starts like raining, no? And that's the only animated thing. No, actually there is another one, because I wanted to create some sort of shadows, like if something was outside of the building, and I put a tree, and the tree is animated, as you can see here. The branches are moving a little in time. To do that, very easy, you just select, for example, this material ID and put a noise modifier over it, and then hit animate noise, then choose the frequency, etc. And that's pretty much it. As for the lighting of the scene, I've been using a very simple HDRI here. I don't remember which HDRI is it. This kind of bluish sky here, of course with direct lighting enabled, and multiplier of 1.5, but it really depends on the HDRI. And as for and no portals, because the room is pretty tiny, and I didn't want too much light actually to go in. And as for the tone mapping, since this is a movie, I've been keeping it quite flat. Okay, so no contrast, no loot, just plain flat image, because we want to, of course, work on that later on from After Effects, for example. So we need a flat image. Yeah, kernel settings, you need to remember to disable static noise, because it's not really suited for animations. Yeah, I've been putting time limits on each frame, so I I can exactly estimate when the calculation is going to end. And I think that's it. Yeah, depth of field, etc. And then I mean saving all my frames to a output, and I usually save in PNG format. And this general configuration is the same for all the scenes. Okay, so let's go to the next scene. Yeah, so the next scene is about the bedroom scene. It has the same light as the one before, as the first one. The camera movement is linear and straight. And when you animate cameras, usually remember to don't use any sort of interpolation of the frames. Okay, just use linear interpolation. So from point A to point B, the movement does not have any kind of acceleration, which is not really good. And you can set the default interpolation mode from here. So when you animate things, they'll be linear always. Okay, so I have a transparent background because, of course, all the footage you see in the movie is composited later from stock footage I found on the internet. You can also find some footage on YouTube, for example, which is pretty nice. Also, the fire is composed later, and the scene, I think it's same tone mapping, same environment, nothing really changes. So let's go to the next one, which is the ocean scene, and here things pretty much the same. The background is transparent and you can see some details here. So the same, the stove is on, so I will compose it in the fire later as well. As for the background, and yeah, the glass is not clear because we want like sort of dirt effect here, and it's very simple material, which is a simple glass with actually it's not fake glass, it's a real glass. Forgot to rename that because you see I have a shell applied to this plane, and I have put just a map in the refraction glossy slot, a simple dirt map. In order to avoid getting a double effect, I've been using an F-Storm front-back node to make it visible on one side only of the glass mesh. So the camera movement is straight and linear as well here. And light is still the same HDRI. The environment power, I think, is the same. Yeah, a little less because I want my image to be darker in the foreground here, and that's also the reason why I didn't put too much light going in. And as you can see, the main material of this project is plywood, which has some slight reflections. Overall it's a matte material, but with very slight reflections, which make it look pretty nice, I think. And if I recall, it's from the textures from this park, maybe. It's just a texture I made. I made in Photoshop with these single um, plywood panels. So I joined them in Photoshop, and the very same texture goes into the diffuse, reflection, and bump slot, and the reflection value is very small, 60. So this gets me this nice smooth effect you see here. The table here is the same texture, darkened, etc. You can find some assets on the CGMood website here. For example, this bar stools and this stove, and then I think nothing else for now. Oh yeah, there is another thing that I didn't talk about, but actually is quite important, and it's this light of the stove here changes intensity in time in a sort of noise behavior. As you can see, the power is going up and down, so it simulates the behavior of the fire, the firelight, and we see that later how to do it with noise controllers and limiters during animation. Okay, so on to this sort of detail of this corner here. And here the light is changed because it starts like getting darker. So instead of using a HDRI, I've been using plain color here, where set on temperature and into the environment slot. Okay, and tone mapping is pretty much the same. I never touch it because I want to keep things low contrast and flat. I want to keep all the details because I want to have freedom in post-production. As for the movement, here is always linear, and it ends with a foreground element which is completely out of focus because it looks like you're watching from the outside, for example. No, and as you notice, I have put another light here to balance the overall colors of the image, so the bluish get slowly balanced with the orangish colors, and following the theory of colors, it works pretty well. And this is the lighting scene. Still the same light, bluish light, with the lighting effect going in. So let's see how it looks. Okay, camera movement is very linear, and actually I be cropping the movie later on because I didn't like this empty part here from the beginning. So my real movie will be starting from here, about here. And let's go forward, and you can see the overall scene. It's pretty much like the previous one. As for the lighting, it's the same. So we have a plain color and same environment power, etc. Same tone mapping. And I put a light here just to make people understand that there is something upstairs. There is actually something. There is a bed, and also to balance the image with cold tones and warm tones. Okay, so at some point here you can see this lighting effect that goes inside the building. So you can clearly see the shadows on the trees. I don't know if it's a real effect, but it works. Actually, the real effect is much more brighter, but I didn't want to lose the feeling of the image, which is focused on the project. Okay, so I've been keeping the effect quite subtle, actually. So how did I achieve this lighting effect? Actually, it's pretty simple, and we'll be reproducing it from scratch, so we understand a generic kind of way to animate things in a noise kind of mode. So it's basically a F-storm sun set to white, and if I go and see how the animation is made, I will be, yeah, this is always pretty an headache when you have to work with this curve editor. Okay, so let's see how the power parameter of the sun changes in our scene. As you can see, this is the power, the final result of the sun power. So the sun power goes up and down in kind of noise mode. Then it stops. Then up and down, up and down, up and down again. Let's try and make it from scratch, okay? So I will be creating a new sun here. F-storm sun. Okay, with a teapot on it. That's my material. Plain white is okay. Okay, so I have this thing here. This is my sun power. Okay, let's assume that it's 1, and I want this to be my off value, so 0, and this is my on value. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is to open the curve editor. And select my sun power and click right mouse button, assign controller, and the first thing I need to do is to assign a noise float. Okay, so I can say that I want the strength to 5, for example. Okay, let's leave it like this for now, and then I want to limit this this behavior, so I'm gonna assign another controller float limit. Okay, so I'm gonna say that my upper limit is, for example, infinite. Okay, and my lower limit is 0 because lights cannot really have a negative value, otherwise some bugs may happen. So it's better to limit the lower limit of lights. Okay, but this way the problem is that our lighting is continuous, and you can see from here and we don't really want that. We want to make it happen like one time in our animation, not like this. So I'm gonna go into the noise strength graph, and then I will be adding keys. Okay, for example, if I want the effect just here, I will be setting and moving keys this way, and I will be setting the value, oops, not this one. I will be setting the value of the frames to 0 when I don't want the noise to happen. Okay, I can do something like this. Yes. So my final result now is that I achieved what I wanted. So my sun is, oops, what the hell, Autodesk. Oh, come on. So my sun is off, and then at some point it starts behaving like lighting, then it stops again. Okay, and if I want to move oops, if I want to move my frames a little earlier, I can, of course, slide the keys, and then I'm gonna add some more keys here because I want it to struck 2 times. Okay, well, the second time is shorter. Okay, also the intensity of the noise is important, of course, and that's pretty much it. So my final result is this one. Okay, and noise strength here is too much. Let's like make it 8, 8, 8. Then I'll be sliding. Yeah, looks pretty good here. No, 8 is too much. It's 5, 5, and that's pretty much it. So lighting is striking 2 times. And this is the final shot, finally, the exterior scene. As you can see, the overall environment is foggy and bluish. Camera movement is going in a straight line backwards this time, and there are some other objects moving here, like this big cloud here, the smaller cloud here as well. And lighting is HDRI based here, so I've been using this HDRI I think from HDRI 11, but I made it more bluish by decreasing the temperature in Photoshop. And actually that's pretty much it. I've been putting warm lights inside the building to make this cold warm contrast that we were talking about. And yeah, environment power is very small because this HDRI was pretty powerful. And as for the kernel settings, here I've been increasing the max depth because I we'll be using a lot of volumetric volume materials, like these clouds here, this layer of mist, and also a general layer of atmosphere, which is pretty new feature in Storm Render. So what we want to do is here is to break down how this environment was made, and it's actually pretty simple, because I started out with the ground, okay, and the ground is it's just a plane that I am with using the polygon brush tool. I've been like pulling up on here on the left and pulling it up on the right, just to leave the space in the middle, which is flat, for the building. Then I've been making a material with a displacement map applied. So this ground material is pretty simple, because you also have to keep in mind that everything gets smoothed out by the environment fog and the clouds and trees, and the vignette and tone mapping that I will be applying in post-production. So I think this is a good starting point, okay? And this is the same scene without the generic fog. So the next layer is this generic kind of fog here, which is like, it stays low and it helps smoothing out things in the foreground, and it also gives a very nice effect, like when the ground has holes and depths, you can see this this fog here is visible, and it's very nice. And you can find it actually on cgmood.com. It's called the Mist Pack. Contains a lot of useful assets for playing with fog and creating mists. There's some nice presets, and it's very useful for exteriors, you know. Okay, so then I've been creating the background environment, and the background environment here is a sort of succession of things. We have a layer of clouds, then we have a layer of trees, then we have a layer of clouds again, then we have a layer of trees again. These ones are following a path, and then we they're following a path with forest pack, which now supports path distribution. So you can see this big cloud here plays an important role, because it merges this layer of trees here and this other layer here. And in the background there is a picture, which is actually a very simple material. It's called background, and it's this picture here. Then in Photoshop I removed the sky, so I managed to create a sort of opacity mask, and the final result is that you can understand there are some mountains, and the rest of course comes with post-production. For example, the lightings are composited, of course, and also the rain, etc. So this is the flat image, and we'll be getting a lot more contrasty and focused on the building after the post-production. Okay, so let's also have a look at a compositing example. So this is our interior scene in After Effects. This is the raw render output, and as you can see, I have my I have black background, which is actually transparent. So the first thing is adding a background, and I added this stock footage here, and then I have to make some color correction. So the first thing is adding some adjustment layer. For example, this is the vignette, and this is a LUT layer, which is very important. I've been using Kim Emland photographic LUTs for this one. And then I've been adding some steam here and moving it along with the camera movement. Okay, so this is our steam here. And then as for the fireplace, I've been adding a fireplace footage, which is very simple. You can find a lot of footages like this on the web. And then I've been masking it out with a mask here, and that's pretty much it actually. So as you can see, the render output was enough nice to finish off the movie with very little post-production, and that's quite important aspect to keep in mind if you want to dig deeper into the architectural video, rendered videos, and this field in general. So I hope it was useful, and I'll be making more tutorials in the future, so stay tuned. Have a good day, guys.